Chapter 22. Fortunately for the squad, they'd been issued IR viewers. The pirates had known the Marines would be going into a dark hive, so they let them keep their red eyes, so they could move in the dark. The AirPods might be buzzing around up there somewhere, but for now, the Marines were better equipped and effectively invisible. They approached the APC in the moonless night, guided by the landing craft's heat leaks. Ramirez had the point. He was several hundred meters ahead of the rest of them. Bueller had told Ramirez to pull up short, scout the area, and then report back. It was likely that there were some guards on the lander, and Bueller had to figure a way to take them out without damaging the craft. Bueller was looking away from the lander when all of a moment the night sky turned to blinding day. "Shit," he said. He flipped the IR flat screen up and turned, using his own vision. The fireball from the APC was still spreading, dimmed somewhat and growing darker as it expanded outward and upward. They were far enough away so that the shockwave was fairly mild. It was like a hot wind, a sudden breeze off a desert at midday. Bueller dropped flat, but realized even as he did so that his reflexes were too slow. If it had been dangerous, they'd already be past tense. After a second, pieces of wreckage began to patter down. Some of it hit nearby, a solid chunk, as a heavy object dug into the rocky soil. A bit of flaming debris arced past, still climbing, and other burning shards fell like a holiday firework display. A hot rain that popped the dirt and went dark or bounced and stayed lit even after coming to rest. "Oh man," Chin said. Bueller spoke into the comm. "Ramirez, respond." The Opchan was quiet. "Adios, Ramirez," Mobutu said. Bueller stared at the smoking ruin ahead of them. Ramirez must have gotten caught in the explosion. Damn. He was sorry to lose Ramirez, but another cold fact lay in his belly like a bar of dry ice. With the APC destroyed, they were all fucked. End of mission. End of squad. Damn. Billy said to Wilkes, "Can you contact the Marines?" The comboard was alive with incoming calls, but all of them from the pirate androids, who were stranded on planet when the APC blew. Wilkes waved his hand over the cutoff control, and the board fell silent. He touched another control. "Fox Platoon, this is Sergeant Wilkes. Anybody copy?" For what seemed like a long time to Billy, there was no response. Oh gods, Mitch. "This is Bueller, First Squad." "Mitch!" Wilkes waved her to silence. "Bueller, what's your situation?" "I've got Blake, Smith, Chin, and Mobutu. We lost Ramirez when the APC went Nova. How are things there?" "Billy got the drop on the head bad guy. He's no longer with us. There are probably some of his troops still loose on the ship, but we're armed and in the control center. I think we can clean them out okay." "Interesting that his androids aren't First Lord," Bueller said. "Yeah, ain't it though? Listen up. I'll light the other APC and come down after your squad. The mission is going to be an abort, Bueller. The bad guys already have one of the bugs back home. Once the government hears that, they'll grab it. We don't need a specimen anymore." "Copy that, Sergeant Wilkes. We'll find a safe place for the APC to land." Suddenly, a voice cut in over that of Bueller's, bleeding across a wide spectrum of the radio band. "Help! Somebody help! This is Walters, second officer. The androids put us down next to one of those fucking anthills, and the things are coming right towards us. Help us!" Wilkes said, "Damn it." He fiddled with the comm controls. "Walters, this is Wilkes. Where are you? Give me a transponder beacon." "Jesus and Buddha, they're all over us. No, leave me alone. Ah!" "The beacon, Walters. Trigger the beacon." Billy stared at Wilkes. "There it is," he said. "He managed to kick it on." Billy shook her head. "The things will take them into the hive. They'll web them up in the egg room." Wilkes nodded. "Yeah, even with the beacon, we can't get to them before they get implanted. They're dead men." He blew out a short sigh. "I'm gonna nuke the planet from the breakaway orbit," he said. At least it'll be quick. We've got enough hardware. While Stevens was bitching about the plasma rifles, I was moving bomb components past him, disguised as spare parts. I can put a ring of fire down there that'll trigger 1,000 volcanoes. Between them and the nukes, they'll scour the planet like a sandblaster. Sterilize the whole fucking planet. Sergeant Wilkes, came Mitch's voice. We heard the distress signal. It's only 12 clicks from here. We're on the way. Negative on that, mister. The mission is an abort. Repeat, it is an abort. You'll find a spot for the APC and wait for it to collect you. That's an order. Sergeant, you know we can't leave those men in there. Wilkes' jaw muscles danced as he ground his teeth together. We'll call for the APC when we get them out, Mitch said. Billy didn't understand what was going on. Mitch, this is Billy. You can't save the crew. They're as good as dead. Wait for the APC. I can't explain it, Billy, but we can't just let them die. Damn it, Mitch. What is this, some kind of marine honor thing? They're gone. They might be breathing for a while longer, but they're dead if they get implanted. We couldn't do anything for them even if you could get them out. It isn't worth the risk. I'm sorry, Billy. I love you. Mitch! Save your breath, Wilkes said. You can't stop them. Why? But Wilkes had nothing to say. Anything from the other squads? Chin asked. No, Bueller answered. I expect if any of them made it and still have comms working, we'll see them at the Hive. Smith shook his head. Damn, I don't like this. Tell me about it, Bueller said. They moved off through the night. There were 4 of Massey's first lawless androids on the ship. Wilkes and Billy found and killed them all. I don't understand, Billy said. I didn't think androids could hurt people. Close, he said. They modified Asimov's first law of robotics for androids. They can't kill a human, or even stand by and allow a human to be killed without trying to help. Otherwise, there wouldn't be android surgeons. They wouldn't be able to hurt somebody a little to save them from a bigger hurt, or death. Apparently nobody told this group. Massey's backing must be very high up in the scheme of things to have pulled that one off. Wilkes programmed the remaining military lander, as well as the one from Massey's ship. The company ship would hang in standby orbit in case it was needed. He could pilot it by remote from the planet. Massey had dropped the little pods with their crews in what was called snowball wrap. It burned off going down, but the pods couldn't reach escape velocity to make it back out of the gravity well. I'm going down with you, Billy said. Not a good idea. I'd rather have you on the ship. I don't care much what you want. I'm going. Wilkes looked at her, shook his head. He tried to warn her, tried to keep her from getting involved with Bueller. It hadn't worked. Now she was having to pay the price. The cost was steep. He hurt for her, but maybe it was the best way. Bueller and the others were probably history, no better off than those of the crew that the monsters had dragged into the mound for baby food. None of the other squads had answered his calls. The mission was a fuck-up from the first. Damn. All right. You can go. What else could he say? The squad had a stroke of good luck. Just before dawn, they happened on one of the airpods. The little vehicle must have run low on fuel and put down next to a stream to try to recharge the converters. It would take a long time for the stream's water to power up the flywheel batteries. The thing wasn't much bigger than a ditch, and the current was slow moving. But it was not as if the passengers had a lot of choice. Running dry of power at 100 meters in the air would guarantee a landing nobody would walk away from. Using her red eye, Blake spiked the 2 androids from 200 meters out, 1 shot each. So, do I get a medal or something? Sure, Blake. When we get back to Earth, I'll put you up for the marksmanship badge. Aw, I already got that one, Bueller. I was hoping for A platinum star at least. What the hell, that too, Beulah said. They grinned at each other, but the expressions were tight, whistling past the graveyard humour. Their chances of getting out of this alive were as slim as those of a spitball in a supernova. But they were better off now. The pod held 2 more plasma rifles and chargers, a 10mm carbine and 2 soft slug pistols. Everybody was armed, a plasma weapon for everybody except Beulah, who took the carbine and a belt of grenades. "How's the pod's charge?" Beulah asked. "Almost dead," Smith answered. "It'll take 16 hours at the stream's flow rate to give it enough to lift. Even then, 2 passengers would be reaching." Beulah shrugged. "Let it keep charging. Maybe it'll be useful when we get back." "When?" Smith said. "My, ain't you the optimist?" "Let's move out." Dawn lit the eastern skies with the first reddish glimmers of day. "Red sky in the morning, sailors take warning," Smith said. "We're Marines," Beulah said. "Let the Navy worry about that shit." They marched towards the alien mound. As the APC fell from the Benedict's belly into space, Billy held her breath. Outside the ship's 4 gravity field, she and Wilkes were suddenly weightless, and that cold, pit-of-the-stomach flutter made her want to throw up. She swallowed the bile that threatened to spew and took deep breaths through her nose. Mitch was down there, and still alive. If they could get to the hive before he went inside, she could maybe stop him. If they were too late for that, then she would grab a gun and go in after him. "How long?" she asked. "If we're lucky, maybe an hour." "And if we aren't lucky?" "We've got to skip through the atmosphere at a bad angle to make the rendezvous," he said. "If we do it wrong, we could fry inside this can." "What happens to the planet if we die?" "If we don't put in a call to the ship in 6 hours, the computer drops the atomics and heads home. Anybody left down there had better get their affairs in order real quick." Billy looked at Wilkes. "You know what those things can do where there's only a few of them," he said. "I'm not taking any chances on leaving a whole planet full of them lying around for some other poor sucker to stumble on." She nodded. He was right. If they died, it was best to take the entire world with them. It was the only way to be sure. "There's the entrance," Mobutu said. "What's the drill?" "I'll take the point," Beulah said. "Move in after me. In 2 and 2. Mobutu, you and Chin in front. Blake, you and Smith covering our asses. We have the signal from the transponder. We go straight to it. Recover the crew. Come straight out." "Easy as falling down a grab shaft," Smith said. "You've got a warped sense of humour," Blake said. "Somebody must have jiggled the tech's arm when he was installing your brain matrix." "Fuck you," Smith said. "If we get back to the ship, I'm all yours, lover." "That's great, Blake," Mobutu said. "Give him a reason to die quicker." "Let's move in, Marines. People need our help in there." They were 200 meters into the mound when the first wave of aliens came at them, a dozen of the things, moving impossibly fast. Fangs bared, claws extended. "Aim low," Beulah ordered. "Take out their legs." He snapped off 3-round bursts, waving the carbine in a short arc to his left, leaving the center and right of the corridor clear. Green beams flashed past him and burned limbs from bodies. Several of the things fell and skidded on the ridged floor, and others tangled with them. Beulah pulled the soft-slug pistol from his belt. The exterior armor would stop the handgun's rounds, but when the things opened their mouths to extend those toothed rods, he fired his sidearm into the openings. The soft slugs tore through the tissue inside their heads very nicely, and the projectiles stayed inside the harder skulls, doing enough damage to be fatal. Rattled around like a mad bumblebee in a jar. It was over in 5 seconds, and the 12 attacking aliens lay burned or shattered, smoke rising where the blood touched the hive. Not that something that acidic could really be called blood. "Don't step in the liquid," Beulah ordered. Stuff's not eating into the floor much, Blake said. Makes sense that it wouldn't, Chin said. Wouldn't do to have holes burned in the building every time some drone cut its finger. We're still 500 meters away from our quarry, Bueller said. Let's move. The APC bounced, the ride bone-jarring, despite the seat restraints. The atmosphere was cloudy, and visibility was nil. Wilkes hoped the computer controls knew what they were doing. The hull temperature was hot enough to melt silver, and climbing. The belly, nose, and underwing tiles on the APC were designed to take a lot more friction than they were getting, but if the lander slewed too much one way or the other, the heat could be a problem. If the skin burned through, it could cause fatal damage to the occupants in a matter of a couple of seconds. At least it would be fast. Are we gonna make it? Wilkes looked at Billy. His own voice chattered with the vibrations when he answered, Maybe. Another wave of monsters clattered towards the squad, hissing as they moved. Bueller's carbine rumbled, a giant tearing heavy canvas, and the armor-piercing rounds punched through the bodies where they hit straight on, ricocheted off when they struck at an angle, making sparks like flint on steel. Chin was right behind Bueller, and his plasma rifle flared, the pulses making the walls glow with a sickly verdant gleam. One of the things tumbled, legs seared off at the knees. It skidded into Bueller, knocked him to the side against the wall. Bueller slammed into the surface, his head protected by the helmet, but his shoulders hit hard. The force of the impact twisted him, so as he fell away he saw what happened to Chin, as if watching it on a holoviewer in slow motion. The legless alien spun, scrabbled with its taloned hands, and slid in at Chin under the line of fire. Chin tried to lower his aim, but too late. The alien opened massive jaws, and bit, latching on to Chin's thigh. Chin screamed. He slammed the butt of the plasma rifle uselessly at the thing's armoured skull. Blake yelled, "Don't move!" and slid over a step to shoot the alien that had Chin in its teeth. The alien's legs were gone, but it still had its tail. It speared Chin's belly, jammed the pointed tail through him, so it emerged between two ribs on his back. The ribs broke through the skin, showing splintered bones. Blake fired, hit the alien behind the hinge of its jaws. The thing convulsed, and the teeth sheared through Chin's leg completely. For a second, he stood there, on one leg, the monster's tail helping him stay up. Then he fell. Smith moved in to tug at Chin, the thing's tail still through him, and another alien flew past Bueller, blocking for an instant his view. He managed to raise his weapon. Even though it had all happened so fast, he was still falling after his impact with the wall. Bueller fired. One of the slugs spanged off the alien, knocked its head sideways, so it looked straight at Bueller. The other two rounds missed the alien. One of them found Chin and blew the top of his head off. Smith was close to the alien. As it twisted back to find him, Smith fired. He was too close. The focuser on the end of the plasma rifle nearly touched the thing. The beam pierced the alien's armor, but it also partially splashed. The plasma sprayed and hit Smith in the face. It cooked the flesh, boiled his eyes into steam. He fell back as the alien collapsed on him, its acid blood spewing onto Smith, eating through his armor and body, stinking smoke rising in a hot blast. Bueller hit the floor. He heard the hums of more plasma beams, saw the reflected green on the walls, came to his feet. The second wave was over. Maybe 20 more of the things lay dead, but both Smith and Chin also gone. That left only 3 of them to save the crew. Bueller looked at Blake and Mobutu. They nodded at him. Without speaking, they started deeper into the hive.